lists, but here, Mitch's mana is stretched by the presence of Tormented Hero and Painseer that no Precinct Captain, 6 plains, and 4 swamps.
So turn 1, Josh Oratz opening up with a red-green dual land. He's playing Jund Monsters. We've seen this deck quite a bit today. It's the classic red-green formula, splashing for Dreadbore.
Okay. We see Mitch open up on a basic plains and a Soldier of the Pantheon. That is honest magic right there.
Soldier of the Pantheon, I mean, that's just good, clean living.
Yeah.
A 2-1 for 1. That's one of the dudes that got me over to the dark side. I played Soldier of Pantheon when that set came out.
Yeah. Multiple powers on it, how can you say no?
I mean, you could, but why would you?
Exactly.
Although it always struck me as more your speed, the Fire Drinker Satyr. It's another guy with multiple powers on him.
Some of them are drawbacks. Yeah, that's more of my language.
Some are a little stronger than others.
All right, and a turn to Mutavault and Imposing Sovereign here from Mitch, so great start.
Yeah, the great thing here is that Josh had a little bit of a slow draw anyway, having to play 2 tap lands. Now, even if he plays the Sylvan Caryatid, he can't even block with it because of the Imposing Sovereign. There's also less chance of, like each turn goes by, it's like, oh, this turn Paulo Kranos can't block, or this turn Gorklan Rampager can't block, or this turn Courser of Krufix can't block. In this spot, we see the Sylvan Caryatid.
And all the points matter so much, so Josh plays a Blood Crypt and a Sylvan Caryatid in play tapped.
Well, see, I mean, this is 2 extra damage he's getting through this turn, but next turn, if a Paulo Kranos or Gorklan Rampager comes down, it's very possible that it'll mean 6 extra points of damage.
Yeah. Temple of Silence now reveals that Mitch is actually playing an Orzhov build rather than just straight White Weenie. Fires up his Mutavault and comes across for 6 points of damage.
So what do you think about the swing with the Mutavault there instead of committing more to the board?
I think that this is probably a hedge against an overloaded Mizium Mortars. I think if you see Josh miss a land drop, that Mitch is going to be much more aggressive deploying, but he's got a good amount of pressure right now. Maybe a little bit on the conservative side firing at the Mutavault, but I believe that it's long-term about minimizing his exposure to Mizium Mortars.
Makes sense. And we see a Dreadbore on the Imposing Sovereign as Josh realizes there's just too much of a tempo loss if he just lets the Sovereign sit into play. We see another Sylvan Caryatid greatly blunting Mitch's attack. He could force in 2 damage right now, but I got a feeling he's going to want to commit more to the board.
And this is a spot where it'd be very good for Mitch to have Zethar Necromancer, as then you had to worry much less about Mizium Mortars as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So we'll see what follow-up it does have. It drew an Orzhov Charm this turn, has a lot of little small creatures in play.
Now he's playing 4 Thoughtseize, which is particularly useful here for making sure that he knows what to play around, Yep.
So he's going to fire up the Mutavault.
He does want to just punch the damage through. Now, do you think we're going to see a Boros Elite?
I imagine there has to be some follow-up here. And there's the Boros Elite. So Mitch being very aggressive about connecting with these Mutavaults when he has a shot.
Yeah, it's interesting. You often see that kind of a play style out of a red deck with quite a bit of reach, but he's playing it pretty aggressively in terms of just sneaking in the extra damage, not wanting to commit more to the board.
Yep.
But he does have a great amount of follow-up to a Mizium Mortars. It might just be that he's got enough answers to big creatures in his hand that the only way he thinks he can lose is a Mizium Mortars.
Absolutely. You see Paulo Kranos enter play here for Josh.
Paulo Kranos usually quite good against White Weenie, but Mitch playing 3 Orzhov Charm, 2 Ultimate Price, and 2 Banisher Priest, and from the looks of it, he has at least 1 in his hand.
But this does demand some sort of response, so we'll see what Mitch has in store.
Now it's interesting, he's slightly choked on black mana, meaning he can only make 1 good play in a turn.
So Mitch casting the Orzhov Charm, presumably to take care of Paulo Kranos, taking quite a bit of damage in the process.
Yeah. He realizes he's not in a race situation. When he loses, he will know it.
Yep.
Like if things turn around, 5 life is unlikely. It's possible, but it's unlikely to make the biggest difference. And we see Josh has the Mizium Mortars in his hand. So Mitch's careful play around the Mizium Mortars looks like it might actually be paying off in a real big way.
And you can see Josh with some hesitation about this Mortars too. It's just such an anemic board, and Mitch with 5 cards in hand. Josh has to worry that this Mortars might not be good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it might be that he just has to drop the Gore Clan Rampager and wait on the mortars yet again. He decides not to. He doesn't want to risk. This is his opening. There's no Brave the Elements this turn. He decides he just wants to go ahead and take 2 creatures while the getting's good.
Yep. So now the board empty, and we'll see what Mitch's response is here momentarily. Draws another copy of Thoughtseize.
Once again,
This is
a man who does not miss a Mutavault swing.
And Thoughtseize.
With style, taking the foil Thoughtseize to the dance first.
Reveals a hand of Dreadbore, Boon Satyr, and Gore Clan Rampager. So Josh not with a lot of proactive stuff left over after all of this.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have 1 creature left, and if Mitch has a single removal spell, he might be able to have a lot of time to deploy his threats. Now, he doesn't have any offense going yet, though. As soon as those Caryatids untap, that Mutavault to be stopped.
But you had to imagine, Mitch might be entering the spot here where, assuming, Josh doesn't do anything very good on his own turn, Mitch can start shifting gears, play Zafir Necromancer, let the board start to build up, and win the game that way.
Absolutely.
So Elvish Mystic the draw here for Josh.
Do you think we might see a Mystic bestowed?
Oh, I think there's a real good chance.
Because he needs to start making some forward progress.
Yeah, he's got to be so concerned Mitch has so many cards in his hand, For as low as Josh is, Mitch has actually not expended that much in the way of resources.
Yeah, Mitch could use a 4th land, but I guess it's actually not even that bad since, I mean, he can cast all his spells. He just can't cast very many at a time.
Yeah.
Now, here it seems like a Thoughtseize might be the first one to the party. Make him do whatever he's going to do with that Boon Satyr, and then just take the Dreadbore anyway.
Yeah, and that really would allow Zafir Necromancer to start to take the game over. It starts with Soldier.
This sort of indicates that he's going to play a creature like a Daring Skyjack instead of the Thoughtseize. It looks like he is going to Thoughtseize. So the order on this is a little strange, but I guess he knows the cards, so he probably just already knows how this is going to play out.
So in response, we're going to see, as you predicted, a bestowed Boon Satyr on Elvish Mystic. Possibly a first time in our coverage history.
Yeah, it sure would be nice to have the Daring Skyjack here, but then again, maybe the issue is just, well, he's not going to, he isn't going to block anyway. Maybe he just wants to have the Soldier down in case Josh plays a gold card.
Still, the ability to be able to block a 3 toughness creature right now seems very valuable, so we'll see if this comes back to haunt Mitch.
Josh, at this point, with basically no defenses, all he has left is this 5/3. And if it dies, obviously a 4/2. But Mitch can beat that with the cards he has showing. Like as soon as he plays the Skyjack, he's got the whole board stabilized. He is going to have to find a way to both survive the Mystic and make forward progress. And now the Gore Clan Rampager making it even worse. But he does gain that extra life.
Very sharp. And we'll see here. Mitch could really use another mana too. Start deploying multiple cards in the turn. Banisher Priest off the draw.
That's
an excellent draw.
Huge. An excellent draw. So now you got a couple good options here. I mean, obviously hitting the Gore Clan Rampager is a fine option, but if you hit the Elvish Mystic, he'll have a Boon Satyr now, but you've actually done a lot of work because you can kill the Boon Satyr very easily, and you'll have solved the bigger of the 2 problems, and the Soldier can fight the Gore Clan Rampager better than most.
I think there's still even an argument this turn for, say, just playing Zafir Necromancer.
Absolutely.
That makes Josh's attack not that great next turn, and you get to remove the most expensive card from your hand. Tormented Hero and Daring Skyjack the plays.
So we'll probably see the Skyjack jump in front of that Elvish Mystic and the Soldier suck up 1 point of damage, but can't be sure.
Yeah.
Either way, it's starting to get kind of tight. I mean, Mitch's life is not super high. That 5 life from the Orzhov charm, definitely he's feeling it now.
And all those Thoughtseizes too.
Oh, yeah.
So the blocks, as predicted, Soldier to Pantheon in front of Gore Clan Rampager. Daring Skyjack in front of Elvish Mystic.
So Mitch is going to take 3, dropping to 5. As long as Josh doesn't come out of the tank with Goreclan Rampager and my Elvish Mystic.
Yep. We'll find out in a moment here. Not sure what the deliberation would be here. So Mitch is going to take 3 here and fall to 5. And Elvis Mystic and Daring Skyjack trade off. Soldier to Pantheon still in play, protection for multicolored. And Josh appears no follow-up play. So Mitch untaps and draws. Hanging on by just a thread here.
Well, that Banisher Priest is going to be real big, right?
Well, he's just drawn Daring Skyjack, which actually complicates things here because he could try to just go for bust here. I guess he's lost his previous Daring Skyjack, so he's short of doing lethal. So yeah, I guess Banisher Priest would be the play here.
Yeah, if you just Banisher Priest the Goreclan Rampager, things are much, are very stabilized.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have to wait a minute. You're going to have to wait a minute in order to be able to get through, but at least you're not taking any more damage, and you've got good long-term plans. You still have 3 more spells in your hand versus an opponent who's just playing off the top.
Yeah. This is still very harrowing territory for Mitch, as Josh has all sorts of incredible draws from here. Mizium Mortar, Stormbright Dragon, Pelikranos, but for the time being, he's keeping his head above water.
And it looks like it is another Boon Satyr. This isn't enough to really get through, because at the end of the day, the Tormented Hero and the Soldier of the Pantheon could eat them both.
Yeah.
What do you think about instead just having the Boon Satyr bestow on the other Boon Satyr so you can get in there for 8?
It makes more sense to me to try to get a 4-toughness creature into play because it basically forced Mitch to either chump or double block, leaving you with a Boon Satyr left over. Mitch has so many little knuckleheads on the ground that trying to, make more creatures that he can block is going to be a really hard battle to win.
Definitely.
But making one big
and his cards in his hand.
Yeah, he's still got leftovers.
But making one big thing gives him real chances of being able to get ahead.
Yeah. Especially with the board the way that it was laid out. Mitch just so well equipped to block 4/2s,
Yeah, this is interesting. Is this a Goreclan Rampager for the win?
It looks like we're just trading off here.
Well, now he can't even draw Goreclan Rampager. Maybe he's afraid of the counterattack, like a Brave the Elements on green?
Yeah, it is possible. I mean, we know that Mitch has 0 copies in his deck, but certainly Josh doesn't know that. These decks historically have played some number of Brave the Elements.
Absolutely. It looks like in this spot, Mitch is actually playing 4 main deck Thoughtseize instead of Brave the Elements. What's funny is that, or what's interesting is he doesn't even have Brave the Elements in his sideboard, just none at all. And that's largely because he has Tormented Hero and Painseer and Zephyr Necromancer, reducing the overall effectiveness.
So Elvis Mystic off the top here. Josh still with a lot of powerful draws here, but not a lot of time as it won't take long for Mitch to actually assemble lethal here.
Josh looking for another Mizium Mortars. He does have 1 more in his deck. That would be the best possible draw, I think, here.
Oh, that door is starting to close a little bit too because of the Necromancer.
Absolutely. Yeah, but just hitting the Banisher Priest can actually, he can make a little bit of forward progress and have a creature big enough with trample to potentially... Oh, I don't know. Maybe you're supposed to just keep the Mystic alive so that you have something to Goreclan Rampage.
Yeah. Instead, you see the Mystic chump block, keeping Josh at 6.
Very conservative chump blocking. Daring Scarejack coming down, putting Josh on a real serious clock here.
Mutavault the draw.
Not the best draw, but at least it threatens to eat the Necromancer if it attacks.
And potentially
or the Banisher Priest.
Yeah, pumps the brakes on Banisher Priest, potentially. So that is, as far as lands go, that's definitely the most meaningful of them all.
Yeah, because, I mean, if he blocks the Necromancer, he has Mortars as a draw. If he blocks the Banisher Priest, he has a real big threat. It's interesting because one of the 2 of them have to get in there for the Skyjack to fly. It'll probably be the Necromancer. Oh, it's
gonna
all
be
of
everything.
them. Wow. So what do you think? Is there any chance, like, I mean, you could, if Mutavault blocks the Banisher Priest, you might actually have something going there, right?
Yeah, now then Stormbreath Dragon becomes a draw.
Yeah, absolutely. He does not activate the Mutavault. So he takes 5 going to 1. Let's see what Mitch's follow-up is. Does he have anything else to add to the board? It looks like it is a Pain Seer.
So he's got Mortars covered. He's got so many leftovers here.
And it looks like that's game.
That's concession. Mitch Yunker with Black-White Humans, quickly, not that quickly, I guess, up a game, but a very methodical pace of play there from Mitch. Able to take the first game as we move on to the sideboards.
Yeah, we saw such great play playing around that Mizium Mortars and correctly identifying Josh both had it and was going to do it.
Yeah, and just really did a great job of picking his spots to get it with Mutavault. That's a play pattern that you see much more commonly against Blue, White, and Esper, where you're trying to ration your threats and stick in damage. You don't see that kind of play pattern come up nearly as much against decks like Green, Red Monsters or Jund Monsters, but Mitch executed it very well there.
Now, Josh, he's got, coming out of the sideboard to try to regain some needed percentage, he's got 2 Abrupt Decay, a Doomblade, 2 Golgari Charms, which are real big, and 3 Ultimate Price. So a fair bit of interaction. Possibly even Arbor Colossus, but I don't think it's going to come to that.
Yeah, a lot of removal to supplement the rest of the removal he's got going on here. Mitch's side of the table, 3 copies of Sin Collector, 2 Renounce the Guilds, 2 Glare of Heresies, 2 Fiendslayer Paladins, a Zathra Necromancer, 2 Doomblades, 3 Dark Betrayals. I like bringing in the additional copies of Doomblade. I actually like bringing in the Zathra Necromancer.
Definitely.
In almost any matchup, as most decks are going to get slower and grindier and more removal-oriented against you post-board, almost no matter what their first game configuration looks like. Renounce the Guilds. This is a really nice sideboard card that Mitch has access to. There's actually nothing in his list that's affected by this with the exception of his sideboarded Sin Collectors. So against cards like Detention Sphere, like Gorkalion Rampager, Domri Rad, there's a lot of very good gold threats in these opposing decks, and Renounce the Guild is just an excellent answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both Xenagos, obviously. It's just such a great tempo play when you don't have any gold cards that you have to be wary of.
Yeah, so really good use of sideboard slots there. Also possible we'll see Fiendslayer Paladin coming as well. Jund Monster's not flush with a lot of great answers. There's Overloaded Mizium Mortars, there's Palikronos, there's just flooding the board with bigger stuff. But some of their more removal-oriented draws do struggle against Fiendslayer Paladin.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he goes that route. I could imagine it possibly is just too slow, like it doesn't swing enough against the green creatures, but I could also imagine it being, well, if the game is going to go long and controlling, I'm confident I can kill the big creatures with my Orzhov Charm, my Ultimate Price, my Renounce the Guilds, my Doomblade. It does enough creature kill that maybe the Fiendslayer Paladin is just an unstoppable threat.
Yeah. Also, interestingly enough, is the fact that, you know, if I'm in Mitch's seat, I'm probably leaning on the side of let's get rid of some of the creatures that can't attack through Sylvan Caryatid. It's a really powerful blocker.
Particularly if they lose to Golgari Charm.
Yes.
Because the last thing I want is to have a Golgari Charm 3-for-1 me.
Exactly. So I think Mitch is in general just going to be sideboarding into a slower deck. As he's going to want to remove some of his less efficient attackers, bring in some grindier cards, bring in additional removal spells.
Yeah, I mean, like Tormented Hero, I think could be on his way out. Either Tormented Hero or Boros Elite, I'm not sure which is the worst. I would guess the Boros Elite is better because it can actually break through the Caryatid.
Correct. If you're in a position where you're actually able to get enough stuff in play, then it swings into Caryatid, whereas Tormented Hero is blunted by nearly anything that Josh can produce.
Yeah, and it's not even clear how much you want the Soldier of the Pantheons. I mean, it's a little tough to cut too many 1-drops, but at the same time, Daring Skyjack at least breaks through, and the Imposing Sovereign is such a great tempo play.
Yeah, so those cards provide other utility. You know, Daring Skyjack by itself can attack into Sylvan Caryatid, and the Jund Monsters deck's a little soft in the air, so it can allow you the last couple pieces of an Alva Strike you need to break through. Imposing Sovereign does a lot of good work, you know, as a tempo play, slowing down some of Josh's defensive creatures. So yeah, I would anticipate the Tormented Hero and Soldier of Pantheon style threats hitting the sidelines here.
Is there any chance that Spear of Heliod is supposed to go out? Or is it just too good for the for giving you a faster board, you know, faster board dominance?
Well, it is kind of good and kind of bad against Golgari Charm. So there's that. You know what I mean? It's good in some spots.
It is different. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah,
it's funny
different.
the relationship Spear of Heliod has with Golgari Charm.
Yeah, there's only so many 3s you can put in the deck, of course, and the Banisher Priest and the Zathar Necromancers are quite good. Additionally, Fiendslayer Paladin might be good as well, and there's only so much of that you could have going on before you get draws. They're just too slow. But I feel like the Tormented Hero, the Soldier of Pantheon, and the Thought Seizes are all less productive cards than the Spear of Heliod's. Even if it's not ideally situated.
Sure. And my guess is that he's going to want the Thought Seize. You know, like he's got to draw the line somewhere. Usually you want to keep the Thought Seize in. It's not necessarily the best card, but being able to hit Palakranos or Stormbreath Dragon is just so big because a lot of these red-green and Jund decks have a relatively small number of cards that are much higher impact than the rest, like Mizium Mortars, Palakranos.
Also, the game is just more likely to be about specific stuff post-board, which makes Thought Seize more attractive.
Oh, yeah. And just knowing what he has, you know, does he have Abrupt Decay? Does he have Golgari Charm? Does he have Doomblade? What exactly is his plan? All right, both players deliberating on whether or not to keep their hands. It looks like we're going to see, at the very least, Jund with 7. Humans keep 7 as well.
Forest and Elvish Mystic to start for Josh. And Plains and a Soldier of Pantheon, so he's at least left in a little bit of that.
So it looks like Josh has got a pretty decent mix. Interesting, he chooses to play basic Forest instead of his land because he wants to make sure that Boon Satyr comes down instead of playing for the Palakranos next turn.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of that from Josh. I feel like the Boon Satyr is so much more effective. You know, Mitch has 2 1s and 2 2s for days. It's really easy for him to, you know, block a Boon Satyr. Where Boon Satyr can be productive is making a threat that's hard to break through on the board otherwise, able to actually punch through.
Although, interestingly, it pays off big here because Mitch attacked with the Soldier and played 2 Boros Elites, which means the Boon Satyr could attack unmolested if it wanted. The problem, of course, is that he's looking at 8 damage on the ground. If he plays a Palakranos, sure, he's stabilized, but it's so easy for Mitch to remove that with like with one of, what is it, like 9 removal spells?
A Swamp and a Doomblade, and Josh is really under the gun.
Oh, yeah.
And he has to take 2 extra points of damage off this Overgrown Tomb to set this all up as well, which is another cost.
Absolutely, particularly since he's now facing a 2-turn clock, discounting blocking.
There's Palakranos.
Interesting. So the Boon Satyr decides to stay home after all, because if stuff goes south, he wants to be able to trade the Boon Satyr with one of those Boros Elites.
Swamp off the top for Mitch, and this might...
That's pretty big.
I assume this has to enable something good.
Yeah, it looks like he might not have any removal besides a Banisher Priest, but a Banisher Priest is good enough.
And another thing to note here is that Josh is actually without red mana altogether. So Mitch can be very aggressive, ignoring Mizium Mortars here. It's not even close to being something on the table.
Right. I mean, he's got a red mana in his hand, but he just hasn't found a convenient turn to play it because he spent all of his mana every turn, and it's a scry land.
Yeah. So big attack there from Mitch. Core Clan Rampager off the top, and Josh is in trouble.
Very, very much so. And the problem is that he doesn't have any answers in the near future coming. I mean, he's just falling further behind. Now he can play another Boon Satyr again, but he's spending 3 mana to trade with a 1-cost creature that has already clocked him. Now, obviously here, the dream is to block the Banisher Priest.
But there's no guarantee.
Are we going to see a pre-combat the Banisher Priest, if he gets in there, this could be bad, right?
Oh, absolutely. If this dies inside of combat, this could be big trouble for Mitch.
This is the turning point. This is what Josh was hoping to set up. That Mystic can even block the Soldier of the Pantheon, just soak up some more damage. But he elects not to. He wants to make sure that he has plenty of mana to fuel Palakranos' rage next turn.
So Banisher Priest trades. That unlocks Palakranos for Josh. And now I think if you're Mitch, you have to almost certainly play Zathar Necromancer here as a hedge against what Palakranos is going to do next turn.
It looks like he's going to try to flood the board with options, though. Is he going to play the Imposing Sovereign or Daring Skyjack as well?
I would have to assume we're following up with something else here.
Yeah, because, I mean, that Zathar Necromancer would be a great way to make sure that you at least have something. You have a consolation prize. But it looks like he wants to Now we got a reader.
Quickly reading Palakranos here. Or not necessarily quickly, as there's a lot of text on that guy. Or not guy necessarily, thing, a Hydra.
Yeah. Think Palakranos is a masculine name, not positive. If we can get my big fat Greek translation guide, that'd be great.
And another way that Mitch could have actually have hedged against this a little bit was just playing the Imposing Sovereign before attacks. That would have prevented Boonsater from coming in and being a factor.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Either Imposing Sovereign or the pre-combat Zethar Necromancer.
Now that said, I think Josh is still in a ton of trouble here. He might just get nickel and dimed out of this game, but that Palakranos being unlocked gives him a real shot.
Yeah, I think at this point, Josh is actually, if he's not a favorite, it's pretty close, because this Palakranos is about to be a 7/7. He's going to get his choice of which 2 creatures to kill. Mitch already showed he doesn't have an answer to Palakranos. Mitch has roughly 2, maybe 3 turns to draw a legitimate answer or a way to punch through. I think Josh actually has surprisingly good chances, considering how grim things were looking just 1 turn ago.
Yeah, this is the swing you needed here. So Palakranos going monstrous. Definitely taking out Daring Skydrak, and now Josh is trying to figure out the...
Is it Boros Elite or is it Soldier of the Pantheon? My first guess would be the Soldier of the Pantheon, but I could see it both ways.
Josh with a hand of Stormbreath Dragon. Another powerful follow-up. He gets a little more breathing space. Just confirming what the second creature here is going to be.
And it looks like it is the Soldier of the Pantheon. So Mitch, wow.
Oh,
wow, that's
very aggressive.
Extraordinarily aggressive, meaning that Josh has Mitch down to 13. And what's interesting is that Stormbreath Dragon is threatening lethal. No, that's actually 1 short, right? 7, 8. Yeah, that's actually 1 short of lethal next turn. Huh.
And Mitch has Imposing Sovereign left over in his hand right now that can throw a wrench in all of that as well.
Wow, that's big. What an interesting surprise. And he's got a Soldier too, meaning he can make some good tempo plays. That attack seemed very aggressive.
But Mitch with a lot of resources left in hand, maybe he doesn't want to play for that many more turns.
So Josh down to 3. Mitch going to commit 2 more attackers to the board, most likely. Josh still at just 2 red mana, meaning not even drawing a Mizzy Mortars. Mizzy Mortars is not just a free win.
Yeah. Mitch instead goes with the Zethar Necromancer.
Now, do you think we're going to see that Palakranos pump the brakes for a turn?
I think it's pretty likely.
What do you think of playing the Zethar Necromancer? I mean, obviously, it depends on how you want to play it. This is like one possible way is to play the Imposing Sovereign and the Soldier of the Pantheon to get down as many lethal threats as possible and make sure that, because that beats the board and makes it so that no creature can actually defend at all.
Yeah, I can understand this play if, you were really worried about an overloaded Mizzium Mortars, but with Josh lacking a 3rd red mana in play, I think that I would have thrown caution to the wind there. There's some chance you get overloaded.
Go for the juggler.
There's some chance you get hit by a Mizzium Mortars, but I think the upside, the most likely scenario is just Josh has some other big creature in his hand, and Imposing Sovereign provides a lot of utility there.
So Stormbreath Dragon is going to join the party. But what? What next? Josh wants to get 1 more hit in so badly, because if he can just sneak in a hit, that Gorklan Rampager on the Palakranos will be game next turn.
Well, it would have to be Stormbreath Dragon because Mitch has too good of a chump block with the Zethar Necromancer.
Gorklan Rampager just trampling over for the kill.
I'm saying this turn, not
Oh,
next.
yeah. If the dragon got in there. Yeah, absolutely. Mitch still on just 3 land, but my goodness, this is a deck that can operate on a very, very low mana base. So the Sovereign comes down. Soldier of the Pantheon comes down. Now this is lethal, and Josh can't play any more blockers. But he does have triple red now.
Yeah.
With that one extra turn, now he's live to one of his 2 Mizium Mortars. Also Golgari Charm. I mean, Golgari Charm would be incredible.
Yeah, Mizium Mortars isn't really a reprieve even for Josh here, as Zathra Necromancer resets all the
absolutely.
board, and Josh doesn't have a lethal attack coming across.
Yeah. Now, what does Josh have in the way of Gore Clan Rampager attacks? Does he? It doesn't look like he's got enough to get through, right?
He looks a little short, 11. I mean,
now if Mitch only chumps the Palo-Kranos,
right,
and that might just be this plan where he's like, okay, well, all I can do is hope he chumps.
Dreadbore off the top here for Josh.
So what do you think about Dreadbore the Necromancer pre-combat, so that Mitch is not incented to block with everything?
I really like. That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. If you attack with just Palo-Kranos here, it's just too much of a free roll for Mitch to say, all right, everything in front of Palo-Kranos. I'm going to try to absorb as much damage as possible. But now if you kill the Zathra Necromancer before attacks, now all of a sudden, if you block with everything and it's just a trade, that's, Mitch might be short on the way back.
Plus, if Mitch blocks in any way other than with at least 3 toughness, he actually dies. And so it's very possible that Mitch will just chump the Palo-Kranos, but if he doesn't, at least the Palo-Kranos is taking down multiple potential counterattackers.
Yeah. Yeah, Josh is still in a great position, even if his Palo-Kranos trades with a bunch of Mitch's resources.
Right.
And if Mitch doesn't block with enough stuff,
so he goes with the Sovereign.
And that gives him a life off Soldier of Pantheon too, which is a big deal here.
Yep. So the Sovereign is going to go away. A zombie is going to join the party. It is tapped. Interesting. The Necromancer would have been the Necromancer soaks up 2 points of trample damage, unlike the rest of his creatures. I mean, Mitch now doesn't even need to multi-block. He could just block with the Necromancer.
Oh, he's going to hard cast the Rampager.
This leaves him dead on board, though, right? Oh, no, it doesn't. He's got 4 blockers. So he wants to play the control game instead of, go for the Hail Mary.
Yeah. But it's so hard to play this sort of game against Zathra Necromancer, too.
Absolutely. It's tough because all he's hoping to draw is Gore Clan Rampager. So, I don't know how much better a chances he's going to get. It is a tough spot, no 2 ways about it.
And adds Painseer. So reassembling lethal for next turn, potentially.
Absolutely, but at least Josh has that Sovereign off the board, which means that he could potentially drop a blocker. What he really wants, though, is something like, I guess, Scavenging Ooze would be real big.
That'd be a great draw. Josh draws. We didn't catch a glimpse of it here. And it's just
Golgari Charm. That would be real nice.
That would be very good here. Although, again,
instant speed removal. Well, but because if it's an instant, you can wait till Mitch attacks with everything, then Golgari Charm, kill everything, and then block the Necromancer. And at least you lived a turn.
Yep. So it looks like
and they're all tapped, so you can attack back for the win.
Yep. Looks like Josh just passed the turn. So on board,
there is a win.
Mitch has a lethal attack here. Is he willing to pull the trigger? Because he might just die on the way back if something goes wrong with his alpha.
Literally, even just a Doomblade or an Abrupt Decay would cost him the game. Literally anything. A Doomblade, an Abrupt Decay, a Golgari Charm. Golgari Charm is going to beat him anyway, so he can't play around that. But almost any removal spell is not going to cost Mitch unless he goes for it. But if he goes for it, he wins if Josh does not have the removal spell.
Yeah, this is one of those spots where, your tournament is always going to come down to moments like this.
He's smiling. He knows it because he could just play the Soldier and have an extra protection next turn so that he plays around the removal spell. But he gives Josh one more turn to potentially draw something really devastating, like a Golgari Charm.
Yeah. So Mitch, as the Soldier, And you
So
can
now I mean, even still, it's possible he leads with a soldier just thinking, all right, I'm going to attack with everything. This way, if he has abrupt decay, at least I gain 1 extra life.
sure.
Because that puts him at 15, and I mean, Josh has 7, 11, 15. That actually that's funny. If he has abrupt decay, that could actually win the game for him, potentially, you know?
He's going for it.
He does go for it.
Everything in.
Yeah, he knows he's dead to a Golgari Charm anyway, so who cares?
And there's the handshake.
Wow, excellent. Well done. Mitch Yunker winning 2 games to 0 with his Black-White Humans deck over Josh Oratz with Jund.
Great run for
Intense.
Mitch. Both players playing in their first Star City game open as well.
Oh, yeah, and what a way to start it off, right?
Yeah.